Hello and welcome. This is the sewing instructional video for the Tetiana K Patterns Midi Swing Skirt. We begin at the iron by pressing our waistband fusible onto the waistband. Once the waistband is fused, we fold it and press a crease into it all along the length of the waistband. Now we can serge all the raw edges of all the pattern pieces. This step is optional. Please note that throughout the video I will mostly not be pinning my seams before sewing. This is only because I have sewn the skirt in this specific fabric many times and I'm very familiar with the way the fabric behaves. As this is likely your first time sewing this pattern, I recommend pinning the pieces together before sewing as you go. Next we will sew the pockets on the side front panels. We start the pocket by sandwiching the pocket band between the side front panel and the pocket bag. Your side front panel will be right side to right side with the pocket bag, and the folded pocket band will be between these two layers. The seam will run along the slanted edge of the side front panel, joining the four layers together. We then flip the pocket bag over and put in an edge top stitch where the pocket band joins the side front panel, that same slanted seam that you just sewed. The top stitch will only be seen inside the pocket and helps to flatten all those seam allowance layers together. We then attach the top part of the side front panel by joining it with the pocket bag, creating the bottom of your pocket inside. Once this is done, flip the whole panel over to the right side and make sure that it lays flat with the notches on the sides matching up. Then you can pin the pocket band in place to the top of the side front panel. We then add stay stitches on each side of the pocket band at 1/4 inch on the seam allowance, from the top of the pocket band to the notch. Don't go past the notch. This is only a stitch to keep the pocket in place when we're sewing all the skirt panels together, which is why we only sew 1/4 on the seam allowance, so it doesn't show when the skirt is joined together. We finish the pocket by sewing both sides of the inside pocket together, which is our pocket bag and side front top panel layers. Now you can repeat these steps to sew the second pocket on the opposite side front panel. Next, we will join all the panels of the skirt together, starting with adding the side front panels to the center front panel. Then, adding the side back panels at the side seams, and finally adding the center back panels to the side back panels. When you're sewing the panels together, only the pocket band as well as the pocket bag up to the notch will go into the seam. After the notch, the pocket bag should not be caught in the seam, connecting the panels together. Here is what your skirt should look like with all the panels joined together. We will of course press open all the seams we just did between all the panels, and we can also press both the pockets on the front. Next, we attach the waistband to the skirt. I do this by first pinning the waistband and skirt together at the center front notch. Again, I suggest that you pin the whole seam together to make sure that you get a nice clean finish. Once your waistband is attached, press that seam open really well. The next step is to sew the invisible zipper. There are many variations on the method to insert invisible zippers, sometimes depending on the machine and the foot you're using. So please do whatever method you're most comfortable with. I will show mine and hopefully it will be useful or complementary to your own. First, I switch to an invisible zipper foot, and then I put my zipper in place on the right side of the skirt by lining up the top plastic end piece at the opening of the zipper with the waistband crease. I place the zipper right side down on the right side of the fabric. I stay stitch the zipper to the seam allowance at 1/4 inch or so. I stitch to the zipper notch on the center back, and then I start tapering away towards the edge of the seam allowance, going about 1/2 inch total past the notch. This is what it looks like when the first stay stitch is done. Once my zipper is secure with the stay stitch, I go back on the same side and stitch under the zipper teeth, starting at 1/2 inch below the notch at the edge of the seam allowance where the other seam that I just did ended, and I taper towards the notch, and then I stitch under the teeth all the way up to the plastic piece at the zipper opening. Then I secure the loose tab on top of the zipper with a small stay stitch. This is what it looks like when that is done. Next, I want to make sure that the seams of the waistband line up with the zipper. I do this by closing the zipper and placing a pin on the left side zipper seam allowance to mark where the waistband seam should be. Then I unzip the zipper and flip it so that the left side of the zipper is right side to right side of the fabric on the left side of the skirt. Lining up the pin, I place with the waistband seam. I then pin the zipper in place. I like to pin it a bit away from the waistband seam where it is less bulky. I then repeat the same 2 seams on the left side of the zipper as I did on the right side, 1 under the teeth and 1 stay stitch on the seam allowance. Both are sewn until the notch on the center back and then tapered away to the edge of the seam allowance, finishing approximately 1/2 inch past the notch. I will also do the little stay stitch at the top of the zipper to secure the little extra tab. This is what it looks like when both sides are done. Now we can close the zipper and the waistband seam should match perfectly at the center back. Next, I will sew the top of the zipper waistband corners. I do this by folding the waistband on itself, right side to right side, and sewing it together by using my zipper foot so that I can get close to the teeth. I sew both the waistband corners and then turn them. Here's what it looks like with both corners sewn and one corner turned. Next, I will close the center back seam by sewing from the hem up to the zipper notch where I started the taper on my zipper seams. I'm still using my invisible zipper foot as it allows me to get as close as possible to where the taper starts. This part can be tricky as the zipper is bulky and gets in the way. Here's what it looks like where my center back seam meets my taper part. Next, I want to finish the waistband, and here's one part where I always use lots of pins as it's very easy for the waistband to twist while you're sewing it. I pin both layers of the waistband together all along the length, making sure it's nice and flat and making sure that my pins are far away from the seam and seam allowance where I'll be securing the waistband or the layers of the waistband together. To secure the waistband, we sew a stay stitch on the inside of the skirt, connecting the seam allowance of the waistband to the seam allowance of the skirt. I'm still using my invisible zipper foot here as it makes it easier for me to connect these two layers. Alternatively, you can do the stitch in the ditch method here on the right side, but I personally find my method much easier, faster, and foolproof, so it's very good for beginners. Here's a close-up of the layers that we're sewing together. Lastly, we're going to turn up the hem at 1/2 inch. Alternatively, you can finish your hem another way, like a bias binding, or whatever way you prefer. And of course, as always, we're going to press all the seams we just did, the zipper, the center back, the waistband, and the hem. Once your skirt is well pressed, it's now finished and ready to wear. Thank you for watching and purchasing Tetiana K patterns. I'd love to see what you made. Please connect with me at Tetiana K Studio on Instagram. Sewing kits for this style and many others, including paper pattern, fabric, and notions that were used in this video, are available in my Etsy shop as well.